What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys had a good weekend. It's the start of the work week, so hopefully, you guys are having a good start to the week so far. I had a proper 2 days off. I didn't make a single video in the last 2 days, which is a little bit surprising. But actually, it felt kind of nice. Felt kind of nice. Just take a proper break. I think Friday was a little bit of a roller coaster, obviously, from the disappointments of all those prism pulls. 41 prism pulls, 41 epics. Make sure you guys check out that video, and obviously pulling that big mythical, just a roller coaster of emotions. And I felt like I kind of needed a bit of a mental break just from raid a little bit there. So anyways, we're back here today. We got some Plarium announcements for the upcoming events starting tomorrow, so let's jump right into that. All right, folks, just above my head here, it looks like it's going to be more faction specific type of progressive pools this time. So they're targeting specific factions. So this Tuesday, so that's going to be tomorrow, they're going to be offering a 15x chance to summon the following champions from Ancients, Primals, Sacreds, and Void Shards. So it looks like day one is going to be from Sylvan Watchers, all the champions anyways. And then day two will be champions from the Shadowkin. Let's go over the first day here. So we're going to hop into the Shadowkins. First, we got Blade Chorister Caldor, the faction unity champion for the Sylvan Watchers. We have Vestel Riverthorn, we have Elva, we have Grand Old Podrick, we have Valar, and then for the Voids, we have Neve, Emic, and Aelel. Let's check out Caldor here. So Caldor is the faction unity champion here. He has a kind of an interesting kit. He's a damage dealing champion, 1600 attack. It's pretty decent. But I think his kit is a little bit strange. It does utilize a couple things that are not really utilized by attack champions. First, he does have an AoE here and it does have a chance to stun. He gets some additional conditional benefits from these continuous heals. Sorry, that was kind of a weird sentence, but he gains additional benefits from these continuous heals. And yeah, he does have also poisons and continuous heals in his kit as well. And he's going to benefit from those as well. So he places poisons on enemies for each continuous heal that they have. Actually, it's just continuous heals on himself. And then these debuff cannot be resisted. They instantly activate one tick of poisons on each ally if the target is an ally. So you can select enemy or allies. It's kind of strange, right? It's like a damage dealing instant poison effect, or you have a buff extender on one ally, and then you instantly activate continuous heals instead of activating poisons. And then you're going to put a veil and add more continuous heals to himself. Then he's going to fill the turn meter of Caldor for each buff or debuff placed by this skill on a 3-turn cooldown. So it's a single target detonator, or it's going to be a single target, kind of a big heal. But the thing is, you need the setup, right, with the continuous heal. I just don't think there's the values here. Like, it's maybe if this was all targets, like all enemies and all allies, it doesn't feel like it's very high value, and it's a Termir buff just for himself. It's kind of, yeah, it seems very lacking, especially with the setup involved. And then it's A3 here on a 3-turn cooldown. He's a single target attack. Before attacking, has a 100% chance of removing all buffs from the target, and then placing decreased defense and weaken. Ignore 20% of the target's resistance for each continuous heal on this champion. Like, I feel like this is kind of like unnecessary. Like, why do you need individual continuous heals to ignore 20% of the target's resistance? I feel like they should just give it, like, if you have a continuous heal, just ignore, just ignore accuracy, right? Or ignore resistance. Sorry. Anyway, so he's going to gain some faction unity bonuses here. On one ally, you can remove all buffs from all enemies. If he kills the target, 2 allies, ignores 5% of the target's defense for each poison on them and each continuous heal buff on this champion. Again, it's a very small benefit, right? 5% ignore defense, and then you have to stack up the poisons and continuous heals. And that's with 2 allies. And then with 3 faction allies, if the initial target is under poison, also attacks all other enemies. The damage dealt is proportional to the initial target's max HP and how many poison debuffs on them. If the initial target is a boss or minion, the damage dealt is equal to 10% of the max HP. So with 3 faction allies, if the initial target has poison, it becomes an AoE attack. So you're placing decreased defense, weaken, and then AoE attack. I mean, on a 3-turn cooldown, yeah, that's strong, but you need 3 faction allies for that. It just doesn't feel great. Passive will ignore 15% of the target's defense when attacking while under Veil, Perfect Veil. He does place Veil on himself with his A2. A2 only. This champion receives 30% less damage from enemies when not under Veil or Perfect Veil. So he's going to deal more damage if he has Veil, and he's going to take less damage if he's not under Veil. He's pretty squishy champion, so you probably don't want to be taking too much damage anyways. One faction ally, each continuous heal buff on this champion increases crit rate by 20%. Hard to rely on this. 2 faction allies, each time a continuous heal buff activates, also fills turn meter by 8%. I mean, that's kind of nice, but again, it's kind of minimal benefit, to be honest. Each time a continuous heal buff activates on this champion or ally increases this champion's damage by 5%. It stacks up to 150%. What I don't really like about Caldor is that his whole kit is very kind of selfish. He's just benefiting off of everybody to buff himself up to, do something big. But I think the setup for this guy, I think, is a little bit much, and I don't see like huge payoff for him. Frankly, I think it's a little bit more effort than it really deserves. So I'm not a huge fan of this. I'm sure he can do some pretty funky stuff if you set him up the whole time. Like, if you have a team to set him up, right? And if you have the time to do so, you can probably do some funky stuff. But to me, it doesn't really stand out to me. You guys let me know in the comments below if you guys found a way to use Caldor really, really well. But let's move on here. So we got Vestel coming up next. Vestel, I did do a showcase on her. Make sure you guys check that out. She's actually super amazing. I would love to have this champion. She looks really, really fun to play with. Huge base attack here, 1729. Her A1 is incredibly good. It's a double hit. For attacking has a 50% chance of removing all buffs from the target. It goes up to 75% chance. 100% chance to steal all buffs instead if this skill is used not on this champion's turn. So counterattacks, ally attacks. This effect cannot be resisted by targets whose attack is equal to or lower than this champion. Like, that's amazing, right? Because she's an attack-based damage dealer, you're very likely to have more attack than the target very, very often, which means it's an irresistible buff steal. Okay, guys, 75% chance or 100% chance when fully booked. Ignore 5% of the target's defense for each buff on this champion. And then, yeah, just 5% ignore damage. Pretty good. In my opinion, absolutely amazing. 20% damage from a single book. They could have stretched this out into like 4 books, but instead they gave us 1. So very, very strong A1. Very, very strong, actually. From my testing, I love the A1. Her A2 on a 4-turn cooldown attacks one enemy before attacking. Increase attack, shatter. So shatter gives you the ignore defense. So you get 15% of that. It's a buff. Will ignore block damage and a stone skin right away. So you can start off right away and then, just nuke somebody right away. Grant extra turn if he kills an enemy. Perfect. If the target survives, fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%. That's a big turn meter fill, giving your team the opportunity to catch up and then do the big damage afterward to finish off the enemies. So, and you got an A3 here on a 4-turn cooldown as well. So both abilities on a 4-turn cooldown. It's an AoE attack, 100% chance to land a weekend. This debuff cannot be resisted by targets with an attack equal to or lower than this champion. Ignores 25% of the target's defense. That's just a flat condition. Very good. Place an extra hit on enemies whose attack is equal to or lower than this champion. Crazy, right? So if you have lower attack than her, she's going to give you an extra hit. Now, this might not be great in PvE content because PvE mobs and enemies, they could have like crazy amounts of attack. So she might not have higher there, but for arena, if you're fighting PvP champions, then this is going to be double hit very often with the weekend. Places unkillable and counterattack on herself. So the counterattack is going to lead into this, which gives her a 100% chance to steal stuff, which is super, super cool. Both attacks on a 4-turn cooldown, but her A1 is very strong. Passive, 50% chance to deal 100% more damage against enemies whose attack is equal to or lower than this champion. So 50% of the time, you're going to be dealing double damage, which is nuts. And then this champion receives 30% less damage from enemies whose attack is equal to or less. She can't take too much damage. Got pretty low base stats, but it helps a little bit, I guess. And then she brings attack in arena battles. Very, kind of glass cannon kind of champion. She doesn't really bring too much in terms of survivability. She does have unkillable counterattack. It's not protected or anything. I found that this was a bit troublesome. Unprotected, unkillable and counterattack. And then the damage mitigation is just not too significant, but she definitely hits. She hits hard. So she's up for grabs on day one. And then we also have Elva Autumnborn, very, very good champions, basically like the gold standard or one of the upper standards for just the baseline support champions. Got speed in all battles, got an A1 heal, got a 3-turn full cleanse with block debuffs to increase speed. That's solid. And then single target revive on a 3-turn, increase defense, increase attack as well. And then a passive that's just super annoying, places perfect veil on the lowest HP at the end of this champion's turn, and then just a standard heal at the start of their turn. Just very, very solid support champion, usable in a lot of areas. I think Chimera is probably the best PvE spot for her. And I mean, you could use her in PvP as well, but you won't see her at the super high levels. After that, we have Grand Oak Podrick. Grand Oak Podrick here was a guaranteed event from a Hero's Path a couple St. Patrick's days ago. Very, very strong champion. 112 base speed, so really good champion you can build with really high speed. He has this aura here, which is speed in dungeons. You don't see it too often, but for him, he actually shines really, really well in Hard Fire Knight. Hard Fire Knight, he brings a team-wide ally attack. So it brings everybody in on the ally attack. He brings turn meter boost with the increased speed. It's also a cleanse as well. These are perfect abilities for Fire Knight, just to get your team in to break down the shields and stuff. So if you have him, it's going to be really good. And like I said, the dungeon aura is very good for Fire Knight. You can use it for Hydra as well. His team flexibility is really, really strong because of his passive. He just drops, the perfect buffs for everybody. So everybody has these buffs whenever it's his turn. And even his A1 can't be overlooked, right? It's a 50% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random ally's active skills by 2 turns. So if you land the decreased cooldown on, say, like a really high damage ability from from one of your teammates, like this A1 is just crazy, right? So you drop 2 turns on your crazy damage dealing ability, and then you're just going to deal more damage. Like, I'm just using an example. Like, for example, if you use him in like a Titus team or whatever, right? And then it reduces the Titus big slam by 2 turns, and then this A1 is just worth so much damage. But he's a great champion, very flexible. Like I said, you can use him in boss fights. Fire Knight Hard's probably his best PvE spot, but he's going to be good in a lot of spots here. He's up for grab on day 1 from the Sylvan Watchers. And then lastly, for the non-voids, we have Balar the Lost. He was a guarantee from a Hero's Path a while ago. It's an interesting kit here. And the reason why a lot of people went for him was for Chimera Trials. And I think he's delivered exactly as advertised here. He's got an A1, chance to last poison sensitivity, which is really good. This is poison sensitivity is just not a debuff that happens very often. And you need this debuff for the Chimera, one of the Chimera Trials. So Balar is very good for that for his A1. His A2 here on a 3-turn cooldown is a single target attack, lands Leech, and then instantly detonates the poisons, which is good. Leech, again, is very good because it does cover one of the Chimera Trials as well. Instantly activating poisons also allows you to deal poison damage to clear the poison trial as well. And then his A3 on a 3-turn cooldown here. Single target hit, increase accuracy. Increased accuracy is also very important because there is a trial that requires increased accuracy. 100% chance of placing decreased resistance. Again, there's a trial that requires decreased resistance. Places 3 poisons on the initial target. If the attack is critical, places 3 poisons for 2 turns on all enemies instead. So that's not that important, especially when you're tackling Chimera, but this is not a bad ability to bring into waves and stuff like that. Like think of a Tomb Lord, right? Think of something like a Tomb Lord. And then his passive here increases his champion's ignore defense by 1% for each poison debuff instantly activated by this champion, up to 20%. Fills his champion's turn meter whenever a poison debuff is placed on an enemy. So it's a single, he's mostly a single target attack champion. He does have this AoE attack here, or AoE poisons, increased accuracy, decreased resistance, leech, poison sensitivity, instantly poison. So any kind of poison trial, he can take care of it for Chimera. And he's been, basically used all the time in those kind of teams. And he's basically working as advertised. Good champ, especially for those trials. Onto the Void champions here from the Sylvan Watchers. We have Neve up first. Now, Neve for me was for sure my best pull in 2025. She absolutely transformed, my PvP. Amazing champion. She has this crazy passive here, blocks damage Uh, places block damage at the start of turn. And she also places block damage if her HP drops below 50%. Now, that can be very, very annoying because she does have a big heal in her kit as well. So if she drops low, she can heal back up. And then it gives her the ability to place block damage again. It's 3 turn, big heal with the block debuffs ally protection. Ally protection is good as well because she's soaking up more damage than your partners or your allies. So then she can reach the 50% threshold first. This ability here is interesting. On a 4 turn cooldown as a single target hit. If the target's under 50% HP or 50% or less, this attack is always critical and ignores 50% of the target's defense. So you can build her without crit, but you can build her with some crit damage. And when enemies are low, you can use this ability and it actually hits pretty good. If you just stack some pretty good amounts of stats on her, for example, crit damage and defense, she can hit okay, right? 50% of the target's defense. Even if you don't build her with like, Savage or whatever, she can hit still pretty good. Also, the shield that comes from this is massive. Uh, so if you're hitting a enemy with very, very low HP, this shield, yeah, can be huge. Can be huge. If the target is killed, also reduce the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns. This is very nice as well. I like using this ability when some champions when they are revived on death, for example, like Empress. Like if Empress is first form, or not first form, but his first death, he comes back revived, and then Neve will come back in and then snipe the Empress, and then you get the big shield, you get the full team cooldown reduction, which is very, very good. That's kind of how you would use these abilities on revive champions. I like using her with a life harvest just to reduce everybody's max HP a little bit, so it makes them easier to get into this range. Her A1 is also pretty solid as well. It's got the decreased attack, decreased crit rate. Does require accuracy, but there is a chance that it can not require accuracy. I just don't build it with accuracy. It's not that important. But decreased crit rate, not too bad, especially on some nukers, just to make them a little bit less effective. Great champion overall defense in all battles here as well, 35%. She's just a tank. She's just a tank. The problem is that I've been finding is that block damage, I think there's a bit more things to deal with it now. So block damage is a little bit less powerful than it was maybe like a year ago when I pulled Neve. But she's still pretty tricky to play against, especially if you don't have, the most common ways to deal with block damage. After that, we have Emic Trunkheart. He was a fusion back in the day, a couple years ago. Very, very strong fusion. He's got the 3 turn decrease cooldown reduction of all allies by 1 turn with a big shield. Won't reduce himself by 1 turn, but it reduces all your allies. It's very solid. And then he has this unkillable ability on a 4 turn cooldown as well with taunt and shield. So there's a lot of things you can do with this guy. He brings basically 2 really strong abilities into one champion. Like for example, like clan boss teams, they bring Painkeeper, who has like the cooldown reduction by 1, and then they bring somebody like Maneater for the unkillable. But for Emic, he brings both, and you can make some pretty crazy stuff with him, like Iron Twin teams, clan boss teams, of course, Hydra teams. A lot of interesting stuff you can do with this guy. He's also Void Affinity as well. Very, very cool champion. And then lastly, for the Voids on day 1, we have Alo. I don't have Alo myself either champion. I think he looks kind of cool, to be honest. When he was first released, he was a little bit of a dud. Looked amazing, and we had a lot of hype for this guy, but then he was just kind of not hitting very good, and then he kind of just fell off. He did get a rebalance. I forgot when, not too long ago, but he's supposed to be a damage dealer, right? So he's got an A1 here. The buff steal is super annoying, and it's irresistible. Yeah, pretty annoying. A1. It's A2 here. 3 turn cooldown. Single target hit ignores, strengthens, stone skin, increased defense, ally protection, and 25% of the target's defense. If this attack kills an enemy, fully heals the champion, places stone skin on it. This is a pretty strong ability, right? Because it gives you full recover, and then you ignore all this stuff, and you have to ignore defense as well. And it's all unconditional. That's really good. So it just comes down to how hard he can hit like his multipliers. I think after rebalance, he actually does pretty good now. So this ability is quite threatening. And then his A3 here is an AoE attack on a 3 turn cooldown. Before attacking, removes any increased defense on each target, replace them with decreased defense. Also removes strengthened and then gives them weaken. Places block buffs on all enemies not under increased defense or strengthened before attacking. Block buffs, I guess it's relevant because just in case they place unkillable on themselves or block damage on themselves if they need to survive. So block buffs are going to be very annoying. The buff removal and buff placement cannot be resist. So no accuracy needed on this guy for his A1 or A3. Very strong ability, to be honest. Doing a bunch of buff and debuff swapping and then placing block buffs. And then, yeah, just a big AoE attack. Passive increases the champion's HP by 2000 and defense by 100 for every 1000 attack they have. So obviously stacking attack will give him some extra stats. Fills his turn meter by 10% whenever they receive a buff. So this part of his passive is pretty interesting because there's a combination you can put Ayla with, champions that place buff right away. So then he gets a turn meter buff right away. Champions that comes to mind is like Necrit, for example, who places a buff passively at the start of the round. So he's going to get a big turn meter boost right away. But yeah, there's pretty interesting passive, right? These stats are kind of interesting. So like, I guess at the top end for Alo, if you have like 10k attack, so you're increasing by 10,000. So you get an extra 20,000 HP and you get a extra 1,000 defense. That doesn't seem that crazy, right? Like an extra 20,000 HP and 1,000 defense for having 10k attack doesn't seem that crazy. But yeah, I wish I kind of have this guy so I can play him out a little bit. But yeah, I don't have him. Never really play test him that much, but he looks pretty cool. That's going to wrap up the Sylvan Watchers on day one. Let's take a look at the Shadowkins that's going to be up for grabs here. So we have Tatatsu, which is the faction unity champion here for the Shadowkin. This guy is super annoying in the hard faction wars waves. It's because of this passive here. Fills the champion's turn meter by 15% whenever an enemy champion takes a turn. So whenever you take a turn, he just gains turn meter. It's kind of crazy, right? He has this one faction ally, increased turn meter effects on your allies, decreased turn meter effects on enemies. 2 ally buff here. Whenever this champion has a turn meter fill, increases the damage of the next attack by 5%. Resets after a skill is used. And then 3 faction allies here. All allies are immune to turn meter reduction effects from enemies. Very, very strong passive here. He hits super hard because his turn meter is going to go up quite a lot, especially like with passives and stuff like that. But yeah, pretty crazy passive there. His A3 is big attack on a 4-turn cooldown. Single target hit, steals all the turn meter from the target, and then places True Fear. Cannot be resisted with one ally. Increases the damage inflicted by the skill based on the difference between this champion's speed and the target's speed. Will also attack all other enemies with more than 50% turn meter, steals 100% of each target's current turn meter, and places True Fear on them as well. This is the super annoying ability as well. He CCs you, takes away your turn meter, and then he hits you super hard. So yeah, he does quite a bit. On his A2 here on a 3-turn cooldown, double hit, single target. 2 extra hits if the target's turn meter is less than 50%. Ignores a percentage of the target's defense equal to the target's current turn meter. It's kind of interesting. So if they have like 50% turn meter, then you're ignoring 50% of target's defense. Oh, that's crazy. Resets the cooldown of this ability if the target is killed on a 3-turn cooldown. And then his A1 is a single target attack, fills the turn meter of all allies by 10% if the attack is critical. Again, similar to Caldor, he's he's a faction unity champion that mainly just benefits himself. He offers minimal benefits to the teammates, to be honest. You got speed in all battles, crit rate as well. But yeah, it's all about, boosting his own damage, what he can do, his turn meter stuff. He does offer a little bit of turn meter benefits for his teammates, but honestly, it's not that much. But as a damage dealer, he performs pretty well. So up next for the non-voids, we have Yuki Masa. So this was the Christmas fusion not too long ago, the latest one. It's pretty decent. It's got an AoE A1, 50% chance to land block actives for 1 turn. If they're under any of this hard CC already, they can't be resisted. Instantly activates its skill whenever this champion skips a turn. Now, block actives is really strong. It's on AoE, so yes, it's really good. I find that 50% is a little bit inconsistent on a single hit, right? But it's a really strong debuff on an AoE, so it has to be balanced a little bit. It's A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. AoE attack ignores block damage. 100% chance to place freeze on all enemies. This debuff cannot be resisted if at least one enemy is under any of this hard CC stuff. Revives one random ally, 50% HP, 50% turn meter. If this skill did not kill an enemy, revives all allies if this skill kills at least one enemy. This ability hits okay. It doesn't hit particularly bad or good. It hits pretty okay. Ignores block damage. That's great. Good condition there. And then the freezing ability, again, very good. All things considered, this is a good ability. It also brings a conditional revive as well. On a 3-turn cooldown, very reasonable, hits very reasonable. Nothing particularly wrong with it. He has 1600 base attack as well, so he can make it definitely hit pretty good. His A3 here on a 3-turn cooldown, single target hit before attacking, steal all turn meter from the target. This effect cannot be resisted if they're under hard CC. Equalizes the target's defense with this champion's defense for this attack. So basically, the defense equalizing, you just drop the enemy's defense and make it equal to Yuki Masses. Because Yuki Masses is not going to have crazy high defense. So you're going to bring down the enemy defense to match. And then you're going to go in with a big smack. If you steal turn meter, then he's going to hit really hard as well. This defense equalizing ability only triggers per this attack. And yeah, hits pretty good. His passive here, fearless champions turn meter by 50% whenever this champion skips a turn because of the hard CC. Whenever this champion skips a turn because of one of these debuffs, their next active skill will ignore 50% of the target's defense. I mean, banking on yourself missing turns is not something that you probably want to do, but it's a decent condition. Gives them a little bit of a catch-up mechanic so that you can hit extra hard after you miss a turn and all that. He hits okay. The thing is, he brings freeze in his kit, and if enemies are frozen, they take less damage. So that's not ideal, right? And this A3 here, like he benefits a lot if they're frozen or hard CC, but that relies on your teammates. And he's an interesting spot because do you build accuracy on him or do you not? Because do you rely on this condition, basically them being hard CC by somebody on your team? So do you build accuracy on him or not? If you want a consistent, experience with him, you probably build him with accuracy so you don't rely on your teammates completely. He does land some pretty good debuffs, block actives, freezing, stuff like that. And obviously, this turn meter steal requires accuracy if they're not hard CC'd. So you probably have to build him with accuracy, which brings down his damage a little bit. He's not a bad champion; he just has a kind of a mixed up kit a little bit. But hey, he's going to be up for grabs on day 2. Another champion up for grab on day 2, another Shadowkin. We got Harima here. Still really good champion. I had her for a long time on my account. She's like fully built up to 6 stars and all that stuff. Her passive is basically the best thing about her, of course. Ignore defense effects are decreased by 50%, makes all your savage, lethal gear, merciless gear less effective. She also has strong effects versus demon spawns. Demon spawns can't crit her, and then she doesn't land weak hits against demon spawns, so affinity doesn't matter for her against demon spawns. Her A2 cuts down the enemy's defense by 5% up to 30%, and it also increases her defense up to 100%. If she kills somebody, she instantly activates her AoE ability. It's just the AoE, lands provoke, irresistible if they're from the demon spawn, and her A1 here is a single target hit with a decreased attack. She doesn't have crazy multipliers on this AoE or this A2, but it's accounting for this defense stacking. So once she's stacked up on the defense, she can hit pretty hard, but she's not going to hit super hard on her initial hit. So that's the thing. Her A1 actually hits pretty hard too. So even when you bring in her in for ally attacks or Mikage and stuff, she actually hits pretty good. But her initial abilities are not super strong. She doesn't have ignore defense or anything like that. She does gain, defense stacking, and then she does chop down the enemy's defense, but she doesn't have any kind of damage boosting for herself otherwise. So the big thing about her is her damage output, but over time she does pick up her damage quite a bit. Still a good champ, still a pretty decent spot for arena, although there's going to be a lot more options nowadays. After that, for the Shadowkin, we have another damage dealer here. We have Arashi, the Riptide, HP based. I did do a showcase on this guy. I found him a little bit lackluster. He's HP based for damage. He's got an A1 double hit here. Chance to remove random buffs. Can't be resisted if he's under Veil. It's A2 on a 3-turn cooldown, single target hit. Ignore 25% of the target's defense. Shield strengthen. Ignore Stone Skin if he's under Veil. If it kills an enemy, increases the duration of all buffs on this champion. And then he has an A3 here. On a 4-turn cooldown is an AoE attack. Gives perfect Veil and increased crit damage on this champion. This attack deals single target damage to each target individually rather than AoE damage. Ignores 15% of the first enemy's defense. After hitting the first enemy, it will hit other enemies following the initial attack. Each hit ignores 5% more of the target's defense. So it's kind of interesting. You want to target probably the weakest champion first, and then after that it's kind of like random, but each hit will get stronger and stronger. For each enemy killed by this attack, increases this champion's HP by 5% up to 30%. This is a pretty interesting ability. It gives perfect veil, crit damage, and all that stuff with ignore defense and HP stacking. So there's a lot going on in this. And then his passive here at the start of the round places prevail on this champion, 20% chance to reflect all damage and debuffs this champion receives back to the attacker. This is actually really good. 20% chance of this happening. It's a passive ability. Will only work on skills that inflict damage or inflict damage and place debuffs. Does not work against bosses. Now, this is a very nice ability. And then placing Perfect Veil to start right away is really, really good. Active ability on a 2-turn cooldown. If the reflected damage kills an enemy, fills this champion's turn meter by 30%, places Veil on this champion by 1 turn. It's yeah, it's kind of like banking on a 20% chance of killing somebody, and then you get the active ability. So this is not going to trigger that often, but it's on a 2-turn cooldown, which is pretty interesting. Honestly, I like his kit. I like his kit. I think it works out well. He plays Veil on himself. He buffs himself. He has HP stacking, which buffs himself again. He has ignore defense on this ability. He has ignore defense on his A2. He has steal abilities. He starts off with Veil. He has a reflect ability. I like his kit, but he doesn't hit hard. He doesn't hit hard. He doesn't hit hard, and I think that really hurts this guy, man. I really like his kit. I think it works really, really well. But he just doesn't hit hard enough. At least for me, for my testing, he didn't hit hard enough, and that's enough to basically end any kind of damage dealer. All right, so moving on, we got Lady Kimmy here. Lady Kimmy, she's got the weirdest aura ever. She's got Doom Tower speed. Just change this to arena speed or speed in all battles. Just save her, please. She deserves better. She deserves better. Our A3 here on a 4-turn cooldown, she has a remove one random buff from each enemy, then places block buffs. You can use her in Hydra in a pinch. I used her in Hydra for a little bit. Builds turn meter of all allies by 15% with increased accuracy and increased speed. This is a pretty good boost here for your entire team with the increased accuracy as well. This one puts an AoE attack with decreased accuracy, decreased speed. Also pushes back turn meter by 15%. This ability is very good as well. The A1 here does some turn meter pushback. Her passive, whenever this champion places a debuff on an enemy, also decreases the enemy's turn meter by 5% for each debuff placed. So she's pushing back turn meter here already, and then she's placing debuffs, and so she could be pushing back more turn meter stuff. And then whenever an ally receives a debuff, fills its turn meter by 5% for each debuff received. 115 base speed, fastest in the game. You can definitely build her as a speed booster. She gives the increased accuracy, which is really good going into like a lockout champion or a bomb champion or something. But yeah, this kind of kills it for her. Like if she had just had 30 in arena or 28 or 20 or in all battles, she would find a lot more use. But yeah, this aura is kind of like nothing. And for a speed booster, you really need that speed aura. But she can still be kind of useful. Onto the voids here, we got Yumiko. Obviously insane Yumiko, still insane to this day, obviously because of Dance of Time. 5-turn cooldown, decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 3 turns, increase the cooldowns of all enemy skills by 3 turns. So she's doing the reset and lockout ability on a single ability, which is crazy. Part of a lot of the big damage, boss teams can be used in arena and all that stuff as well. Just a crazy champion. Also has this built-in little bit of hex here, which is super annoying as well. Her hex is like special too because of this passive. But yeah, really fun champion. Really enables a lot of the high damage end game teams. Up next for the voids, we have Riho Bone Spear. Riho Bone Spear was the first void guarantee champion. I don't know how many years ago, probably 3 years ago now. But she has this ability here. 6 debuffs on a single ability on a 3-turn cooldown. Crazy against single target bosses, clan boss, chimera. But I guess you can use her for like Hydra if you have a single target attack targeting one head. Continuous heals on the A1, and then a 3-turn team cleanse, big heal, solid support ability, and her passive here it's on a 3-turn cooldown, unfortunately, but whenever she receives debuffs, it sends it right back to the attacker. If this was like a lower cooldown, it'd be pretty crazy. She would be pretty nuts. But as is, like I use her in Sand Devil. I know some people that can use her in Chimera. You can use her in like Shogun and stuff like that. The 6 debuffs on a single ability is very good. And then lastly, for the Void Champions, we have Jin Wan. I don't have Jin Wan myself. He was buffed not too long ago. And he was actually way better after the buff. Before the buff, he's basically just complete trash. So after the buff, he's way better. Single target attack, transfer all debuffs from this champion to the target. Also has a chance to stun, super annoying ability. As A2 here on a 3-turn cooldown, AoE attack increases duration of all debuffs, and then block actives with the block buffs as well on a 3-turn cooldown. You can use this ability on Hydra just for the block buffs if you need them. And then he has a 4-turn cooldown A3, another AoE double hit. It removes all buffs. And then the second hit will place decreased accuracy, decreased crit damage. Also places strengthened on all your allies. Yeah, very strong kit, actually. Very strong kit. He lands quite a bit of debuffs. He lands 4 debuffs while placing buffs. And then he has a stun ability on his A1. And his passive here further protects your team as well. This champion is immune to all hard CC, which is crazy. This is just the passive effect. And his active effect on a 4-turn cooldown, at the end of each enemy's turn or ally turn, remove all the hard CCs from all allies and places block debuffs. So this happens on a 4-turn cooldown just passively, which is nuts. Unfortunately, he doesn't have like a cleanse ability or anything like that on himself. And he doesn't have any kind of healing or anything like that. So he's not like the craziest support champion, but he does bring some pretty good abilities. He has a strip, a bunch of debuffs, and then he has this kind of team protection passive here as well. So he got a lot better, but he's not like busted OP or anything like that. But he's definitely a lot better, and he's a menace in those faction wars hard waves. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Just a little bit of a preview to the progressive events coming for tomorrow. A little bit of a longer video here. Lots to talk about for some of these champions. In terms of who I would think is the best of the best, in terms of non-voids, for Sylvan Watchers, I would go for Vestil because I don't have her. And then if you guys don't have Neve, Neve would be the best, I would say, from the void champions. But all of these void champions are kind of different in their own way. Emic enables team building, like for PvE content, and Alo is just, really strong damage dealer as well. For the Shadowkins, for the non-voids, I mean, it's kind of interesting which one you would probably go for. Tatatsu, I think, would probably be very sought after, but you can kind of make an argument for like Yukimasa, for his revivability, for faction wars. Harima is also going to be very strong. Yumiko for the void champions, I think, is a standout here for the Shadowkins. Just an easy slam dunk. Yumiko is just going to be really, really good. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching until the end. Have a great start to the week. Have a great Monday. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video.